Welcome back to Arise News Hour. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now let's go to Liberia and that mysterious case of the vanishing billions of Liberian dollars, the equivalent of about 60 million US dollars. Reports say containers packed with the money left the port in the capital Monrovia under security escort in March and were thought to be headed for the central bank, but then vanished. The money had apparently been ordered by the previous government and arrived in Liberia as the new leader, George Weah, was preparing to assume power late last year. He appears not to have been told about the money, but now that he has, he's ordered an investigation, and some 15 people are not allowed to travel out of the country pending the completion of that probe. They include the deputy governor of the central bank and son of the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Well, the African Affairs analyst and publisher of Africa Briefing, John Ofe-Ansah, has been following the Liberian money trail, and he joins me now live. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, John. So what's the latest, and where does the investigation stand right now? I understand those people who've been named as persons of interest are facing a panel of investigators at the police headquarters in Monrovia.
Your information is true, and again, they've been ordered not to leave the country, until all the investigations are completed. But the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, has reacted, strongly to those allegations, saying that they are impugning, the reputation of former government officials and Liberia as a whole. But what I must add is that if the amount $104 million, if the amount enters the economy, is sunk into the economy, it's going to worsen the already precarious economic situation in the country. Inflation is already on an increase. And since George Weah came to office in March, the Liberian dollar has depreciated by 20%. So it is a serious matter that the current government administration need to come to grips with and resolve.
Well, I think most Liberians, and indeed most Africans, would agree with you. And of course, you mentioned that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf there has been reacting rather strongly. Her son, of course, Charles, happens to be one of the people who is a person of interest, who's been essentially prevented from leaving the country whilst this investigation is taking place. What do you make of that situation?
Yes, Charles Sirleaf was one time the deputy, was it 2012, was the deputy governor of the central bank. And he was made to step down from that role over some allegations. But later on in, I think, 2016, February 2016, he was again made the interim governor of the central bank, amid accusations to the country of nepotism by his mother, who was the then president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Right, and what's the relationship between the former government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and the current administration of George Weah?
Knowing the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and the kind of woman that we know she is, I believe that the relationship between her and the current president, George Weah, should be cordial. Because we mustn't forget that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was largely responsible for cementing the fragile peace, strengthening the fragile peace after 2 civil wars in Liberia. So I don't believe a person like that would do or say anything to antagonize George Weah or even threaten, the peace that she helped to cement. So I presume that the relationship between her and George Weah must be quite cordial.
And in light of the spectacular cases of corruption, a lot of which you cover in your Africa Briefing publication, a lot of them we hear about across Africa. In Nigeria, the case of millions of dollars found in boxes in a flat in Lagos, $4.3 million meant for the poor in Zambia. I mean, how unorthodox and strange a situation is this case of the vanished millions in Liberia?
It is, I wouldn't call it, it is unorthodox, by Western standards. Charles, you and I are used to the Western norms, adhere to the Western standards. But to the average African, yes, it's mind-boggling, but not surprising. Considering the spate of corruption scandals, you've mentioned just a few, Zambia and Nigeria. That happens across the continent every day, just about every day.
And John, I just wonder what people in Liberia are making of all this. I mean, I expect it's causing considerable outrage and on social media, for instance, not to mention discussion and debate. I mean, is there a sense that an investigation might get underway, but in the end, nothing might come of it?
Well, yes, Africans in general, and Liberians in particular, I think are getting inured, to such, political, economic, scandals in their countries. And in fact, I kind of feel a bit sorry for George Weah, who I see as having a baptism of fire. Look, recently, his finance minister upgraded his business class ticket to a first class ticket at a cost of $16,000 US, for his flight to Beijing to attend the recent China-Africa Cooperation Summit. This is one scandal, okay? And I think George Weah came into office on a wave of, massive popular support. And indications are that that support is beginning to dwindle. So he needs to act swiftly and decisively, to nip all this, scandals, mismanagement, corruption in the bud.
John, thank you very much indeed. John Ofe Ansah, the African Affairs analyst and publisher of Africa Briefing.